Now, across the Causeway, Malaysia PM Muhyddin Yassin is looking to call for snap polls as early as this year. Mr. Muhyiddin, who's also the president of Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia, apparently made this clear at its Supreme Council meeting last week.
It was only in March that Mr. Muhyiddin was sworn in as Prime Minister after defecting from Pakatan Harapan, which was then led by Mahathir Mohamad. So for more on this, we are joined by Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh. Shannon, initially Mr. Muhyiddin was seen as reluctant to call for a snap election due to fears of a split vote among his Bersatu party as well as the partnership between UMNO and PAS. So why has he changed his course now?
So, well, a lot has happened in the past week. All of a sudden, UMNO, which had publicly said that it would be going into the election with its existing partnerships and not mentioning anything about Bersatu, have suddenly come closer to Bersatu. Part of this, what observers are saying, is that UMNO is a very strong party. It's the oldest party in Malaysia. It's ruled for 6 decades, but right now it doesn't have a good prime ministerial candidate. We know the former Premier Najib Razak is under trial for graft, and so is their current president Zahid Hamidi. So for UMNO, it is in their interest to ensure that Muhyiddin remains a credible candidate. And so they've come to an agreement with Bersatu that we should, look at the seat allocation and try to come to a consensus. A technical committee, it's what they're calling it, has been formed to look into the seats that they want to contest and to try and divide it in the best possible manner. And this is a departure from the thinking maybe even 2 weeks ago.
Shannon, if PM Muhyiddin does call the election, it will take place during a pandemic. Does he see it as advantageous for him to have an election during this crisis?
Well, I don't think anyone wants to go into an election during a crisis if they can help it. I think, for example, in Singapore's case, one has to be called by next year anyway. So, and we have no idea when a vaccine will be we will discover a vaccine. In Malaysia's case, number of cases have dropped. I don't think Muhyiddin is thinking about calling the election next month or the month after. It will be in a situation where cases are near zero or have been zero for a while. And the talk is that he will want to use the budget for 2021 as an election budget, as a way to promise people this is what you're going to get if we continue in government.
But what are the consequences if results don't go as expected, that Mr. Muhyiddin does not manage to gain a simple majority in Parliament then?
Well, he doesn't continue as Prime Minister, I suppose. Malaysia might end up having its 4th government in less than 3 years. That's a lot of changes for a country that had UMNO in power for 61 years or so. There is the situation where Parliament could be hung. We've all been used to the idea of a 2-party system in Malaysia, but with so many moving parts now, you could have one block with 100 MPs, another block with 100 MPs, and then maybe another 20 from somewhere else who haven't pledged their allegiance to anyone, and then you could get a lot of horse trading. So if the elections don't throw up a clear winner, we could see what happened in February when the Agong had to step in, the King had to step in and try to figure out which MP could possibly cobble together a majority.
Right. Shannon, just to round up our interview today, how would you sum up the current state of Malaysian politics, and how does Dr. Mahathir and Mr. Anwar Ibrahim fit into all this?
The current state is very messy, and I think that's one of the reasons why Muhyiddin wants an election. There's been a lot of talk ever since he took power. It's been 3 months, right? And the whole 3 months, the talk about backdoor government, illegitimate government, hasn't stopped. People keep saying that you didn't win a mandate at the election. And that's why he wants to go to an election, win a proper mandate and say, I am your Prime Minister, and that cannot be disputed. But right now, what the opposition is doing is trying to say that you have never proven your majority. You've never gone to Parliament and won a single vote. So how do we know that you're the legitimate Prime Minister? So what Anwar and Mahathir are doing now are trying to get defectors to come back across. And then they can go to the King and say, well, we have the numbers. Their problem right now is that they've been trying this for 3 months and they can't tell us who's going to be Prime Minister if Pakatan Harapan comes back to power. Is it going to be Mahathir again? Or is it going to be Anwar Ibrahim? Or some people say they might come back to a transition plan. Earlier, Mahathir was supposed to hand over power to Anwar before the change of government happened. Is that still on the cards? There's a lot of ideas that have been going around in Pakatan circles. None of them is the outright winner right now. Negotiations are still happening. Where we are with Pakatan is that they said that they will come to a solution by next Tuesday. They met this Tuesday, 3 days ago, and they said, give us 1 week and we'll come up with a solution. I'm personally not confident that will happen.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for taking time off to speak with us. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. We were speaking to Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh.